Welcome to the TheKnittyKats podcast, episode 13. If you're a returning viewer, it's so nice to see you again. And if you're new, welcome to our pod. My name is Julie, and I'm coming to you from the foothills of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. I am a dyer, spinner, knitter, crocheter, seamstress, and most importantly, cat rescuer. Today's episode is called Knit, Hike, Cardamom Bun. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome. What a funny name for a podcast, I know, but that's what I did for the last month. For those of you returning, you know that I was on a vacation to Norway. It was my dream trip. I've wanted to go to Norway for 35 years, and I'll explain why, and I'll actually put a link in. In about 1987, I watched on PBS a BBC miniseries called Maelstrom. I'm going to put a link in the show notes because I found it, and I have looked for 30 years for this show. And it was set in Norway, and I don't even remember what it was about. I think now that I found it, I found out it was a murder mystery kind of thing. But it was more the countryside, and they would drive up these hills, and I just thought, oh, someday I'm going to go to Norway. And also that's where half of my father's family came from, on his dad's side. That's where they're from. And what I thought I'd do today is first I'm going to go through my finished objects because I finished quite a few things before I left. And I'm going to do that super quickly just so that I can get on to Norway. The first thing I finished was the hipster shawl light, and that's the Hohi Locatelli shawl. And if you remember, I saw this on the Grocery Girls, and I loved everything about it. I loved the color. I thought, I'm doing it. So I did it. And it's super cute. I didn't do the alternating fringe like Tracy did. I just did one color. I haven't really worn it yet because it's been super hot here. But I did do cotton. And remember I told you about that Eddie Bauer cotton I found at Joann's? It was so nice. It's the nicest cotton I've ever knit with. So I think this whole thing, and it was on sale, I think this whole thing cost me $10 to make. But I wanted something that I could wear summer, fall, white shirt, jean shirt. So I think that turned out super cute, and it was really easy. And the next thing I finished was my Pothos sweater, and that was by Beth McDonald Stone. This one, not the pattern. I thought the pattern was beautiful, but I did it a little bit tight, and and I didn't want a cropped sweater, but it is cropped. I'm going to put a picture in of the Pothos vine that she talks about. She's from Bermuda. She talks about this, it's Pothos, I think, vine that grows in Bermuda. So I'll put a picture of that in. And that's what that's what the pattern is here. I don't know if you can see it. There, you can see it. It's a vine. You can actually do the pattern all the way down the side. I wasn't loving the yarn. It was the Drops Cotton Light. But it'll be okay over a black shift dress or something, strapless little dress. It'll be okay. But I thought the pattern was great. It was an interesting cast off on the arm, which you could have done just a raglan, just put it on a holder, and you could actually make this longer, which I might do because I thought it was so cute. But it was I've never done a bind off like this before, and it didn't say really that you were doing a bind off, or I missed it, which is a possibility. But I thought it turned out really cute. And I think she's a great pattern writer. So that is my Pothos Tee. I did also finish while I was there. I thought because I was meeting a Norwegian pattern designer, I thought I wanted to make another one of these Thursday shawls. And I went to My Sister Knits before I left and picked up some knitting for olive silk and mohair, and with the intention that I was going to put them together and make it. But I went a little ways and it was just too thick, and I wanted to wear it while I was there, and it was warm, and I thought it would be better if I just did a single strand. So I went down a needle size and made this darling. If you guys haven't made the Thursday shawl yet, you need to make it. It's so cute. Now I do make it a little bit thinner here. I don't go as wide because I have a short neck, and I love to wear it. I wore this the whole time because I finished it pretty early on. And it's just the cutest little shawl. So cute. So, love this. So now I have some navy silk mohair knitting for Olive. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Put it in a hat or something, because that's something I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about the trends I saw, I really paid attention to what was happening, and I have some cool pictures for you to show you, as well as some really, really neat friends that I made while in Norway and people that I met. I want to share that with you too. So I think, oh gosh, you guys, the other thing that I finished, do you remember the hat I lost of my husband's, the mouse hat? The one that got eaten by a mouse that was lost for 5 years? Here's a picture of it in the state that he got it back. And I had already knit him a new one. So here's the new one that I had made him. And here's the old one that he found. And I repaired I cut all the mess off. And I had to pick up the stitches here and just join them. So this I did an Italian bind off. It's not quite as stretchy as I thought, and I'm not sure if he's gonna want this. I think it's really cute. Here I covered the holes, and I was able to learn some things, which was super cool. I did a 3-needle bind off here. So I picked up the stitches there and did a 3-needle bind off here, which you can see didn't turn out quite as nice. And then here I picked up the stitches here and then did a Kitchener stitch, and that turned out really cute. But I thought, he's not going to want this. He'll never wear it. He said he would, but he's not going to. So I thought I would do it, and I thought it would be really cute if I felted a little mouse head or did something and got a little mouse and had the little mouse peeking out, because the mouse did the damage. Now I haven't picked up the inside yet or finished off the inside. This is what it looks like. It's a little embarrassing. I didn't have time. But you can see how I need to go back and kind of clean it up a little bit. And I will, because it's cashmere. And this cashmere I wanted to keep it 100% cashmere. One of the sweaters that I unraveled, I took the yarn, it was a chunky yarn, and I took it and split it in 2 or 3s. I think I did it in 3s. And that's the yarn I used here. So I thought it turned out so cute. And I'm sure I'll be the owner of this hat. And then I made another hat, which I guess I'll talk about that later, because I bought the yarn actually in Norway and knit while I was there. The one thing I didn't finish, do you remember my whole plan was that I was going to get these socks for my husband done in Norway. I wanted to take just one little knitting project, and I'm a 2 at a time knitter of my socks, but when I got to the heel, I realized that, oh my goodness, what a mess, that I'm usually a afterthought heel person. Now, I always called it an afterthought heel. It's actually a forethought heel, because I do put the waist yarn in, so I guess that's a forethought heel. So I realized that I can't do an afterthought heel for my husband. He needs a proper heel with a heel flap. And I didn't have a lot of concentrated knitting time. Everything I did was like, okay, get on this train, we're going here, we're doing this. So I didn't have a lot of time other than the trip over, which that's what got me to the heel flap. So I tried 3 times to do the heel flap. I don't normally do one, so it's a little bit harder for me. And it just didn't look good when I was forming the heel part. So I decided, after I was SOSing my sister, she was sending me a pattern. Long story short, I didn't finish the socks. I thought, I'm putting them away until I get back home and I can sit down and concentrate. I even have the book from the Crazy Sock Lady, and I have the pattern, and I was trying to look it up on the internet while I was there, but every time I tried to start working on it, there was an interruption. So I thought, forget it. You're going to be mad. You ripped it out 3 times. Put it away. So I did, and that's where the socks have lived. I literally carried this around the whole time. Those are the things that I've finished. So I'm going to pause now because what I want to do is actually take you on the journey with me. So I have created some maps of where we went and how we got to each place, what I bought, and just a few pictures of where I was, of some pictures of what I was doing. I don't want to bore you with that because you don't have to look at my vacation. I'll actually put quite a few extra at the end. So I'm going to pause right now and rearrange my little space here and get my yarn ready to show you in the order in which I acquired it. We left Denver and flew to Reykjavik, Iceland, and I had known from a coworker, Shelley, that her daughter who had been to Iceland last fall, that they sell Letlopi in the airport. So I kind of expected that, but I was like, no, please, because I knew I couldn't buy any on the way. I mean, I just didn't have room. And so I didn't buy any in Reykjavik, but I did spot the places that had it. It's right in the airport. Got to Bergen. Bergen was an amazing city. Now my son stayed in Iceland for an extra day and toured Iceland. So my husband and I had the first night in Bergen by ourselves, which was great because that was the only night we were going to have alone. So we went out to dinner for our anniversary. We were so tired, but we just went to a local cafe. It was so beautiful, poured rain. We love rain. So we had a really, really nice dinner and glass of wine. I think we just had soup and salad and a glass of wine, but it was amazing. Then we did some hiking. Our son joined us the next day, and I noticed that in the train station, there was a yarn shop. And I'm like, why is there a yarn shop in the train station? So I was pretty excited because I just peeked in the window and didn't have a lot of time, and it was closed. So I didn't get to buy yarn at that point. But before we left Bergen, we were there for 3 days. Before we left Bergen, I found a little yarn shop that was literally right down the street from us, and it was darling. And this is the name. I wish that I could have learned Norwegian. My husband actually did learn Norwegian for the most part. He did a really good job of learning Norwegian for the last year. In fact, when we were on the plane, I'm like, what are you reading? And I look over, and on his Kindle, he's reading a book in Norwegian. He has a real gift for languages. He speaks 3 or 4 fluently and dabbles in about 8. Norwegian's his latest. But this is the yarn shop that I went to. And I actually have a cute little small video, which I'll put up now. This yarn shop was darling. I couldn't wait for it to open. Once it opened, many of the yarn shops there have little baskets outside with their yarn and things that are on sale or not on sale. And again, first city, I couldn't buy a lot, so I went in and bought just some. I thought I'm just going to buy some little trinkets. They had these needles, which are kind of like the Haya needles that are curved. So I bought 10 of them. I bought a couple for my sister and some for me. And in these cute little cases, which this is just stuff I didn't need to carry, but I got it. And I needed, believe it or not, how many measuring tapes do I have? 50. Did I have one? No. So I had to buy a measuring tape, bought a cute little notions bag because this means happy knitting. And I thought everyone needs to have a happy knitting little notions bag. So I got that. And then I wasn't going to buy any yarn, even though they had an amazing selection of yarn. It was actually the mother of, I think it was her daughter-in-law that had the shop. Her daughter or daughter-in-law. And she was so nice. And I took pictures, which you're seeing now. But I also bought this yarn. I saw this on the way out. And this was mohair. And this was the beginning of my Norwegian mohair journey. And it was just so pretty because it's made in Bergen. But it's dyed with plants, and it's called Fjord Fibers. And I thought that was appropriate because of where I was. And maybe it's not dyed by plants, but it is hand-dyed yarn in Bergen, the gateway to the fjords of Norway. And it looked like the foliage in the fjords because we'd been hiking, and it was so beautiful. So I got 3 of these. And I feel kind of bad. I should have got some for my sister because these are her colors too. I might have to relinquish these to her. But I thought this was so pretty and small, but that electric yellow. I love the electric yellow. I don't know if you guys can see these. So I hope my camera works because my husband thought he was going to take this camera to Norway and I begged him not to. I said, please don't take this camera because if it gets lost, it's just something else to carry. But I think he might have messed with my settings. So I hope you can see all of these things. If not, I'm sorry. I know, and I know this isn't the best light, but it's still Colorado and it's so hot here still. So that's the first thing I bought. And then on the way out, I ran to the train station just to see what they had. I wanted to go in and they had a beautiful selection of yarns. And they had this Sandnes garn, which is a Norwegian yarn. And it was a really pretty painted, it was called tin silk mohair paint. And I just liked these colors. And then I later came to regret buying this because I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I bought 3 of them. So enough to make a sweater. The solution to the story is coming later, and it's a good solution. So I bought 3 of those. So from there, we took an airplane, and it was a little small airplane, little prop airplane, to the very north of Norway, to Tromsø. And Tromsø is typically a fishing village, not village, it's a city, but it's probably one of the most populated northern cities in Norway, and it's in the Arctic Circle. Now it's on the Gulf Stream, so it was really warm. In fact, it was the warmest place we went the entire time we were in Norway. We were so hot there, and we went to a beach, and my husband and son swim in it's the Norwegian Sea, is what they swam in. But there were tons of people, families, kids. It was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Rocky, but beautiful. So that was Tromsø. That also, and then we were taking a trip, a ship, a small ship, a cruise ship, but it was a small cruise ship, through the fjords down to Svalbard. I can't say that right. But while we were waiting, because we were getting the ship at 11:30 at night, and we were leaving the port at 1:30, while we were waiting, if you followed me on Instagram, that's the picture I have where I'm knitting, literally at midnight, knitting in the light. And I thought, oh, this would be amazing. You could knit outside. I'd never go to sleep in the summer because I like to knit outside. So that's where that was. So we got on this ship. Oh, I forgot to mention my first friend in Bergen. I met her. She was in a coffee shop. We were going up a hill to a hike, and there was a little coffee shop that my husband and I sat to have some soup. And she's sitting there knitting, and I thought, she's young. So here's a picture of her. I didn't get her name. She's just darling. But she was knitting a sweater. Her mom worked for the printing company for the Sandnes Garn Company. So she got like yarns that were being discontinued. Her mom got a supply of yarn, which is wonderful. Anyway, that's her. And then on the boat, which went from Tromsø to Svalbard, and it went down through the fjords. So that was the whole part of this trip that was appealing, and my husband had researched it, is we took this ship, and you could be on the bow of the ship and going through these fjords. It was the most breathtaking, beautiful thing to see. And it was a 16-hour boat ride through the fjords down, and we docked at Svalbard, and spent the night there. And my husband got up and did a quick hike on a mountain there called the Goat. And there's a whole folklore around the goat. So, I went to the yarn shop. So at the yarn shop, again, I can't buy a lot, but I wanted to look. And I thought, oh gosh, what am I going to buy? I found this silk mohair, and this is why I should have titled my podcast Knit Hike Silk Mohair, because it seems like that's what I bought. And everything is smashed because it was in plastic bags smashed down. But I found this silk mohair, and it's 53% silk mohair and 34% silk, which is the highest percentage of silk that I found in silk mohair. So it's 53% mohair, 34% silk and 13% wool. And it's by Dale Yarn. Garn. And I thought it was a really beautiful color. I thought I could put it with a fingering weight camel and make a beautiful camel color sweater. I loved this. So that's all I was gonna buy. And on the way out, they had hanging a royal blue cumulus blouse. And I thought, that is so pretty. How many balls does it take? And then I look over and there's a sale bin. Oh, and this was this was on sale. About $5 a ball, which is pretty good. And then I found there was another bin of sale yarn, and I just don't need silk mohair. What am I gonna do with all this silk mohair? I hardly knit with it. So then I saw the cumulus blouse, and I asked, how many does that take? And they said 8. And I looked over, and there was this color, and there were 8. And they were on sale. And this is the silk mohair by Sandnes Garn. And that was my thing, you guys, is I was only gonna buy yarn that was made in Norway. That was my pact, was only Norwegian yarn in Norway, because everything else, why would I? There's a lot of Danish yarn in Norway, and apparently it's very inexpensive in Norway, and the dollar was strong. So this stuff was, so my $5 stuff really was probably closer to $4.50. So I bought 8 of these, and that gave me a way to start knitting again, because I had kind of given up because I couldn't do the socks, right? I didn't want to do the socks. I didn't want to work on the socks. But I also picked up some sale yarn that was this color, and it was in the Smart Superwash Sandnes Garn. And again, because it was $5, I thought I'm going to make another hat, because you know my favorite hat is the lousy hat, the leftover sock yarn hat. This is my favorite hat I've ever made, and it was with 2 strands of leftover sock yarn. Super dark, isn't it? Oh, you guys, I'm so sorry. There we go. I can't get too close, apparently. And I love this hat, and it's so comfortable. I think I did go down a needle size. And so I went down a needle size on this. I think I'm using a 5. It calls for a 6. And I set out to make another hat. So I made this one with this yarn. I really made it for my son. He doesn't like it, so I'm keeping it. So I did that pretty quickly, and I did that on the boat. Where did I buy that? Did I not? Oh, I must have bought this in Tromsø. I forgot to tell you about the yarn shop in Tromsø. Back up. I'm so sorry. I'm going to tell you about the yarn shop in Tromsø because I did buy some things. Not much. I just bought this cute little bag. So cute. Little sheepy balls. That's darling. And I bought, the name of the shop was this. And they had a ton of yarn. I could have done a lot of shopping there, but I couldn't take it. And that's why I bought this. So sorry. I made this on the ship from Tromsø to Svalbard. So now I had 2 hats with me, which is great because I did use them at one point at the same time when it was so cold. So we left the warmth of Tromsø, got to Svalbard. I went and bought to the yarn shop, bought this, and I have made the cumulus blouse. So here is the cumulus blouse. Now, it's a petite knit pattern, and I don't know when I'm gonna learn, but I need to make a small petite knit pattern. I made the no frill sweater. It was gigantic. I ripped back to here and had to do the same thing, and this is gigantic too. But stay tuned because I'm gonna tell you, this is applicable now. This is gonna fit right into what's in fashion. So I bought that yarn. I bought, that might be it. Yeah, that's all I bought there. So the next place we went was we got a car, and it's the only place we rented a car. And we went to, because we were going further on into the Lofoten Islands. Now, most of the crazy beautiful pictures you see of Norway are in the Lofoten Islands. This was my dream. Our destination was Rønne, which is in the very tip of the Lofoten Islands, but we stopped at a little village. I think it was it on the way, or was it a day trip? Yeah, it was on the way, and it was called Henningsbar. Now this is cool because it's a little fishing village, and it had 2 yarn shops. One was the Lofoten wool yarn shop, and the other was called Homila. And when I went into Homila, there's this lady knitting, and I saw these beautiful knit sweaters, which I'm going to show you right now. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. She was so nice. Her name is Lonna. I think that's how you say her name, Lonna Pedersen, and she's the owner of the shop. And so I got talking with her and asked her if I could take a couple pictures. And of course she was so nice, and her sweaters were beautiful. This particular sweater, and I have the name of it, it's called the Hennesvar Let. It is actually, you'll notice that it has little, it looks like little buildings throughout the sweater. And it actually depicts the village, because as the fishing ships come in, this is what the little houses look like. The little, it looks like these little, colorful little things coming out of the water. I don't know, it's just a beautiful place. But that's what was her inspiration for her sweaters. She also had a couple other sweaters, which one of them meant, oh gosh, she told me. I just was talking to her on Instagram before I started filming this. She also has a new pattern release coming out probably by the time this comes out. So I'm going to put a link actually to her Ravelry page. Some of them are in English, some aren't. She said as soon as she finished the pattern that's coming out now, which is in English and Norwegian, she will transfer the other one that I loved, which is called the Harbrunsgenser. Now, Gunser means sweater, so I'm sure it's the home sweater or the Harper sweater or something like that. But anyway, so I got talking to her, and she said she'd only had her shop for a couple of years, and that she sold the sweaters as well. And I asked what she did before. She was a cook on, oh gosh, did I get that right? Yeah, she did food preparation and cooking for fishing boats previously, and I believe oil ships. But she had a hard time breathing the fumes from the boat, and so she had to stop doing that, and she'd done that for a long time. And so she opened a yarn shop, and I said, wow, that's amazing. Does it do well? And she said, yes, it does well, but that's not what drives her business. What drives her business is the sale of these beautiful sweaters. She knits them in Let Lopi, or Lopi, the bulky weight one. I don't know what it is. And sometimes she holds a Let Lopi with the unspun Lopi, the pot Lopi. I don't know how to say all these names, you guys. I'm so sorry. But watching her do this was amazing. I feel so privileged to not only have met her, but to have seen her doing it. Now, the sweaters sell for $400 to $500 a piece, and they are well worth it because it's color work all throughout. They're made of beautiful, heavy, beautiful wool. And she said she sold 40 in the month of June. She normally sells 20 to 26 per month. And she sold 40 in the month of June to tourists. And I thought, good for you. Here is someone who had a beautiful store. She is a pattern writer, and she sold her work. And she has someone that helps her knit them because she can't knit them fast enough. And I'm like, that is just so amazing. So good for her. Thank you for sharing your story with me. And if you're ever in Henningsvåg, please go see her shop. Then we went to Renne, and there was not a yarn shop in Renne, which was good because we really just did a lot of hiking. And this is where I did my beautiful hike to the top of Rennensberg. I don't know how to say it. The famous peak there that you hike, but it's also the one that I had seen. And I wanted to hike that and climb it. It's climbing. It's just straight up. And a little bit scary once you got to the top. That's what was funny to me about being a Colorado hiker. We have sometimes you get to a top and there's warnings. I mean, these cliffs, these just went straight off into the sea, and there was no, be careful, watch your step, don't take a selfie. And when I got there though, you guys, I literally had tears because I had wanted to do that so bad. And I just went, oh my gosh. And I was so overwhelmed. It was so beautiful. The weather was changing, the clouds coming in, and so we were in the clouds by the time we left. It was a little bit scary because it's straight off. But I had a great time. And then we also went sea kayaking there. So here's a picture of us sea kayaking. That was beautiful because it was raining and no one else wanted to go. So it was my husband and I, and then my son, who was paired with a journalist from the Wall Street Journal who was living in Thailand. From Reina, we then took our car and drove to a town called Leknes, and we were catching a plane there. And so I said, there's a yarn shop there, I'm going in, and that was amazing. These people were so sweet. I don't know how to say the name of this, but this is the name of the shop and a little video of what the shop looked like. And they had such beautiful things. They had so much yarn and leather goods. It just went on and on and on. And then when I thought I was done, I went around the corner and there was some more. So I did buy some things there. How's my no shopping for yarn going, guys? Not very good. And you can probably guess what I bought. Yep, silk mohair. It's on sale. So I bought 4 of these and 4 of these. And I don't know if I'll pair them with different yarns or if I will actually put them together and knit something. Because I did see some pictures of people putting 2 colors of mohair and knitting like cumulus, all kinds of sweaters with 2 colors, 2 different colors, and it creates this dimension that is absolutely stunning. So that's what I bought there, as well as I thought I might want to cast on the Oslo hat. So I bought, I'm really into this color. I feel like I've bought this color a lot in many yarns. I bought this fingering weight yarn called Sunday yarn from Sandnes Garn. I don't know if this is, I don't think it is superwash, no. And, oh, I forgot, I bought this in Tromsø. I ran into a shop. So where we were staying in Tromsø, I was so frustrated because right next door, it just wasn't plainly marked that it was a yarn store. And it was darling, like a little bit higher end yarns, which I loved. And I literally went the day we were leaving. Like we were leaving, like in minutes. So anyway, they had this and I bought this color. I wish that I would have had something to do with it because I love it and it's so soft and it's very nice. I think I had bought this at the other yarn store in Tromsø, so that's where I bought this one. And I thought I was going to pair them together to make the Oslo hat, but when I looked at the pattern and bought the pattern, it was too heavy. It would have been too heavy. So that's why I went and bought this. So how much yarn in this color have I bought so far? So I just bought 2 of these and 1 of these, and I will make the Oslo hat out of this. So that was, now I'm in Leknes. We took a airplane to Trondheim. Now Trondheim is the home of November Knits. If you haven't knit some of her patterns, they're beautiful patterns. I've knit, I think, 2 things of hers, and I didn't ask to meet her. I mean, that's kind of stalking people, right? But anyway, it's a really, really pretty city with a beautiful city center. We were only there overnight, but took a train and then a bus to a hiking area called Glendabu. And it's a long lake, and this is where we were hiking hut to hut. So we stayed the first night in a hut, and I met a girl named Clara, and she was from Copenhagen. She was just beautiful and was making the Oslo hat. And that was the first time in the whole trip really that I was able to let down and do some knitting and find my knitting vibe, have a beer. They had beautiful, wonderful beer there, and it was picturesque, just beautiful. So then the next morning my husband and son got up and they hiked the Bessingen Ridge. I decided I couldn't do it. I probably could have, but at some point they needed to enjoy hiking too. And so I said, you know what, you guys go for it. They both have super long legs and very fit. And here's a picture of them at the top of the Bessingen Ridge. And it's these glacier lakes, and you get to see glaciers. If you'll notice the teal color of the water, that's as a result of the glaciers melting and grinding against the land and making this very fine silt. And so it reflects this teal. So their lakes, a lot of their lakes are this color. It's an unbelievable color. It's turquoise. So once we were done there, we took a boat all the way down this very long lake, and we got a bus and we went to Lillehammer. In Lillehammer, it was a little bit harder because I knew I was getting closer to the point where I could buy more yarn. And Lillehammer's a really cool city. If you remember, the Olympics were there in the early 1990s, I think, and they did all the hand knit sweaters, and it was a beautiful city on this river, a Apparently it's the longest river in Norway, and it's super wide. We had a beautiful bed and breakfast that looked out over this river, and we had beautiful weather. I really enjoyed Lillehammer. I'd love to go back to Lillehammer with my sister, and they had lots of yarn shops. So I did buy some yarn in Lillehammer. Here's what I bought. I'm gonna make a colorwork sweater, and this is bulky yarn. So I'm gonna do gray with this beautiful blue and white. This I actually bought in Oslo, but it goes with it. So I'm gonna do little tufts of this, but it's a bulky yarn, and I thought it would make a really cool, fun Norway sweater for me. Now, the only disappointment, it's called Viking Yarns of Norway, but it is made in Peru. But I didn't care because I liked it so much. So it has a Norwegian label, and that's gonna give me a pass. And then the next day, I was able to do a little more shopping and went in a darling shop, and they had all the baskets out. Really, really hard to not go there. And they had a sale. I don't know if I was hitting the end of the summer sales. It seemed like Sandnes Garn had a lot of discontinued colors. Well, guess what color I bought again? And I bought 8 of these because I'll probably hold 3 together and make a sweater. I'm kind of looking now, and I thought that's what I would do in my next video, is actually tell you what I'm gonna make with all these, because I'm kind of sorting it out. But this is alpaca. I don't know how to say it. Let's see if you can see. I don't think that's zooming in, you guys. I have to check my settings. I'll do that next time. I'm so sorry. But it is 100% alpaca. So I might have to hold it with something else just so that it keeps its shape. But I love that color. I love that color. And then I bought this color, and I bought this color. So this I might hold with this. Should be fabulous. And this one I don't know. So that was Lillehammer. While we were there, my family originally came on my father's side from a village just 6 miles up the river, down the river? Up the river, called Faaborg. And apparently it used to be bigger than Lillehammer. Lillehammer's a pretty good sized city, but Faaborg used to be bigger. We were in search of the graves. I don't know that we found them or any trace of our family. The interesting thing about Norwegians, I hope I'm not boring you to death. I just learned so much. I'd learned this before because we've been trying to find our Norwegian roots for quite a while, is that when you are the first son, or maybe all the sons, if your dad's name was Lars, your last name then becomes Larsen, Lars' son, right? So, and if you're a daughter, you'd be Lars' daughter. So you don't take your father's or the family last name, you take on your father's first name as your last name. So you can imagine how hard that is to try and find your family. So we found some very old gravestones that are possibly, but at the graveyard, at the church there in the graveyard. And then we went to the parish hall and talked to a really nice gentleman there who explained it's very difficult. And so I think I'm kind of giving up on that we may not find our roots. But it was just really cool being there, being on the ground that our forefathers walked on. That's pretty amazing. And it was so beautiful. You guys, this country is beautiful. Norway it's so clean. The people are wonderful and kind and giving, and they say that they're very reserved. I didn't find them terribly reserved. They were not outgoing to you, but once you talked to them or if you tried to ask them a question, they were so nice and very social and engaging. The cities were clean. The public transportation is spotless and safe, and the roads were immaculate, and the bridges were breathtaking. The tunnels would blow your mind. Everything was amazing. Norway is amazing. It's an amazing country, and the people. I have found my people. I have found my people. They are knitters that hike, and they bring their knitting while hiking. That is where I belong, in Norway. My people are in Norway. So anyway, being in the ground that my forefathers walked on was pretty amazing. From Faaborg, it was time to go to Oslo. So we went to Oslo on a train. We left Lillehammer, and that was what I had really been looking forward to. I was meeting a YouTuber when she found out that I was going to go to Oslo. She said, "I'd be happy to meet you there and take you around to the yarn shops." I thought, yeah. My sister and my husband are like, "You're crazy. This is just someone, who's going to abduct you." Now, first of all, we didn't realize how safe Norway was, because once you're there, you're like, there's no one here that would abduct you anyway. They're all so nice and normal. I mean, they were so normal. Like, sometimes you feel like, in America, you feel like, where am I? And like, what's going on? Because it's so crazy sometimes. But in Norway, everyone seemed so normal and safe. So anyway, I thought, I'm meeting her. She's one of my YouTubers, and they're all nice, and they're my friends. So we reached out. We set a time. It just so happened that she said, "I'll meet you at this church," which was half a block. Christine, I think, was a half a block from my flat. And so we met at this church. So here's where I met her. I hugged her, and one of the yarn shops that I wanted to go to, because I really wanted Hillesvarg. Hillesvarg was my goal to buy in Oslo. I'd read about it. I've watched some YouTube videos on Hillesvarg. My sister had put her order in, and I wanted to buy my sister a yarn quantity, or a sweater quantity of yarn. And so she'd picked out her colors. And like always, when I saw the colors she'd picked, because I was, pulling them off the shelf, I thought, those are the exact colors I want. But I thought, she'll kill me, because she hates that I copy her. But she has really good taste in yarn and puts colors together. And she wanted to make a color work sweater, and I didn't. I don't know. Are any of you guys older sisters, and your younger sister wants to do everything you do? That's me. And do you hate it like my sister hates it? She hates it. I copy her anyway, because I think she has really good taste. And if you're a little sister, do you copy your big sister? So here are the colors that my sister picked. I'm going to try and pull back a little bit, because I know this light is bad, but I just had a seek shade today. And it is beautiful grays. And I got the tinned, which is a light DK weight, I think. And this will be beautiful. Now, the special thing about the Hillesvarg yarn is that the sheep they use. It's a gray sheep, especially for the tinned. And so it's not white, and it has this glow to it. It is the most beautiful, beautiful yarn. I should have bought more, but because again, this was so inexpensive. The colors I bought, I was in search of a royal sweater. So I bought this color. I can't be mad at my husband for changing my camera settings, because he ran for my yarn, remember? And he's not here. He's running a race right now, so I can't ask him what he did. But anyway, I got this for me. And then I bought this one. I'm going to make a teal sweater, because Christine and the yarn shop lady voted. I kind of had picked out a sea green color, and they voted for this color. They said it looked better on me. So I got this sweater quantity for that. Oh, I forgot to get my duffel bag for you guys. So funny. It was huge. It's okay. It was just a duffel bag that folded flat and then went big. And then I ran back right before they closed on that same day and got this. And this is, or no, when did I get this? Yeah, anyway, it's a different one. It's more of a sport weight. And apparently it's hard to find. That's what Christine said. So I'm going to do a color work out of this. They only had 3 of these, so I grabbed one of these. I mean, talk about mad shopping. So from there, Christine and I went to a place called Garntopia, and she was great at mastering the subway. So that was wonderful. And she surprised me, and here's Christine at Garntopia. She surprised me and said, "I want to buy you some yarn." She liked the Rauma yarn, and they had it, and she wanted to buy me yarn to make some Norwegian mittens. She said she was making me some socks, but she didn't have them finished. And so I picked these colors. And I picked them because I'd seen them in a book of Nina's, which I'm going to show you later. And so she bought this for me along with a petite knit project bag. So Christine, I can not only thank you for spending your morning with me. I feel like I have a new friend. You are so sweet. She was so accommodating, so nice. I mean, that's the thing about knitters. You feel like you know them right away. And so I was so grateful to Christine for taking all that time with me. And then I told her I needed to be finished at 3 because I was meeting Nina. Now, you guys remember Nina from my January episode of Norwegian Knitting, where I had kind of gotten excited this time last year while I was here at my mom's house. I wanted to make a pair of the like Selbu mittens, the Norwegian mittens. And I had found a book at the library, and this was the book I found at the library, Mittens from Norway. And when I found it at the library, I looked at the name, and her name is Nina Granlund Saether, which is my maiden name, my Norwegian maiden name. So it's not why I liked the book, it's why I went and got the book. But when I went and got the book at the library, I fell in love with this book. It's out of print in America. You can still find it on some used bookstores and online bookstores. Check and see if your library has it. Most libraries do. This book is the coolest book because what Nina did, and I'm sorry I'm going through it again because I did it on my January, is that she took vintage mittens, like she would find mittens in a museum or a picture of a mitten in a museum, and then she writes the pattern for you. And it's like reading a history book of Norway. So go find this book. If you can buy it, buy it. If you can find it in the library, find it in the library. So anyway, that's how I got to know Nina, and just kind of back and forth conversing. And I would have never in a million years, because she's a pattern designer. She also is the publisher of a real estate and homes magazine in Norway, in Oslo. She lives close to Oslo. I would have never in a million years asked her to meet me because she's busy and who am I? Anyway, but she did reach out to me and said, when are you going to be in Oslo? And I told her, and she takes the train in, and she was going to be there those days. I couldn't believe it. So we were to meet at 3:30. And Christine and I, when we went back to my flat to drop off this yarn I'd bought at the first place, I also had left a package. I had gotten both Nina and Christine some Colorado yarn. And then I had also brought Nina, because her last name's the same. And if you don't know, we have a jewelry store in Fort Collins, Colorado named Saethers. And Saether comes from Saether. And so I thought it would be fun. My sister and I both thought it would be fun to take her some things with our name on it, with our store name. So we had some cups and a jewelry holder and just some things that I had carried for 20 days in my little backpack to give to Nina, because I thought it would be very meaningful for her, being that that was her name. But what had happened is I had left them in the flat when we had dropped off the yarn. We had to go to the restroom, and we realized that when we were on the way to the other yarn shop. So we were a little late meeting Nina, and I told her, would you like to meet Nina? And she was excited to meet her. So we met Nina. We were about 15 minutes late meeting her, which I felt really bad. But then Nina wanted to take me to a couple yarn shops, and she took us to the yarn shop right in the city center. It's in this department store. Now, if you remember, if you watched Arne and Carlos, they did a Oslo shopping trip, and they went into this yarn shop. And it's in a department store center, and downstairs, and they have knitted things from Norway, and they also have quite a bit of yarn. They also had the Hillesvarg, and they also had walls of Rauma, some Sandnes garn, just really beautiful and clean. Here's some pictures of us, of Christine and Nina and I in this store. But what the cool thing was is that I thought it'd be really special if I could pick out the yarn and make mittens that Nina had in her pattern. So I'll put a picture up now, because here's the yarn that I picked to make mittens from Nina. And also I wanted to make the little cat mittens. I'd wanted to make those for a long time. So here are those. Here's the yarn for that, and also the pattern. And then the next morning, I'm getting ahead of myself. Then I said I wanted to find some yarn. I had brought this with me all around every place I'd been. I brought this crazy yarn that I brought in Bergen, right? And I said, Nina, what can I make with this? And she thought about it for about 1 minute and said, here. She had just designed a sweater. She said, this will be perfect. So I'm gonna hold this and this together. She just started picking things. This and this. And this and this. Again, you're noticing the mohair. To make a beautiful sweater of Nina's. It's not in English, so I'm going to try my best. It might be a while, but it would be really special to me if I could pull off that sweater and make it, because she chose the yarn for this sweater for me, and I feel so touched that she did that. So then I kept thinking, I went home that night. I mean, it was just, and then Nina and I went out for coffee, and we right across from Parliament, and she was telling me a little bit about the royalty in Norway and some different things that were happening. So it was just nice to sit there and talk to her. And here's some pictures of us having coffee. And she also she brought me this beautiful book of mittens and socks from around Norway, and signed it. Oh yeah, I know. I don't know how this happens to me, how these things happen, but I'm super excited. So she signed that, and the yarn, I was going to show you, because the one that I'm going to make with Christine's yarn is, let me get this out. Remember this yarn? I am going to make these. And that's where I got the idea for the color. Guys, I am so sorry about this light. It is so dark. There, maybe it'll correct itself. And they're called witchcraft mittens, and I thought, ooh, not sure I want to make those. But let me read you about witchcraft mittens. Lisbeth Pedersens daughter, there it is. She's Peter's daughter. Lisbeth Pedersens is the first Norwegian knitter about whom we have historical records. Lisbeth was accused of witchcraft, and her trial was held in Jens Thomson's house in Stavanger on the 22nd in 1634, in August 22nd, 1634. From the resulting legal proceedings, we know that she made her living knitting socks. Her name is among a total of 860 people accused of witchcraft in Norway in the 15 and 1600s. 307 of them were executed, most of them who were burned alive. I made these mittens to honor all those who were wrongfully accused of witchcraft, hence the name Witchcraft Mittens. So that made me feel a whole lot better about using this pattern, because it's pretty amazing that you got a little bit of history too. And I know that happened in America. What an awful thing. But when you buy her books, and I know you can find this one because I've seen it around, just look on the internet, you get the Norwegian history. So that's what I'm making with those. And the other ones, which you saw, are these. And my little cat mittens, which I'm so excited to make. I think they're in here. Oh no, I think they're in this book, the other book. Anyway, gosh, I feel like I've talked so much. I wanted to tell you also, so to finish with Nina, that was amazing. What an experience. I will never be able to forget that day between Christine and Nina. Hands down, one of the best days of my life. Thank you both so much for making that happen for me. So kind. You devoted your time and your day. So, so kind. I wanted to tell you one more thing I bought at Garntopia. I'm not sure Garntopia was worth the trip, but I don't know. I don't know what Christine felt. But one thing they did have was a lot of petite knit things. So I bought these petite knit, they're iron-on, so I like to make my own needle holders. So they're appliques to make that, and then little labels, which I haven't put on this yet, but I will. And I bought some straps for a bag, and then the clutch openings for a large and a small bag. So that was cool. I also bought a mohair brush because if you haven't seen, I bought a lot of mohair. So they have a petite knit mohair brush, and I bought one of those. Let's see if I can get it out here. Not sure how it works, but you must just brush your mohair to get it unballed. So I'm super excited to have that. Oh my gosh, it's made of birch wood and boar bristles. How do you like that? And then I also bought some little, like what we call them barber cords in America. It's a brand, but stitch holder, petite knit stitch holder cords because I liked the colors. Oh my gosh, you guys, what a fun time I had. And then I also bought some palms. I bought these in Lillehammer, some little palms, because I have 500. I needed some more. So the thing that I wanted to also talk to you about, I need to get a cup of coffee here, or a drink of coffee. I've talked so much. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, the other place I went with Nina, the Fruit Bits, where we also had bought some tins. Christina and I bought some Lofoten yarn. Now, in Lofoten, they have a very special yarn. I don't know if it's the sheep. Why can't I find? I have so much yarn sitting here. And I really, really wanted to buy a sweater's quantity of that at that time, but it was halfway through the trip, and I knew I just didn't have time, I didn't have the space in my pack for yarn. So I was really excited to see that they had it in this shop in Oslo, and I just bought 2 small little skeins that I will make, Hanks, I guess, make into mittens. I thought these were really pretty together, and Nina also picked these colors together for me too, so I will make some special mittens of Nina's with this color. The thing that's cool about the Lofoten wool is that it's dyed with plants, so I loved that. Next time when I go back, I'm buying a sweater's quantity of Lofoten wool. I wanted to talk to you a minute about the fashions that I saw. So I want to say that absolutely everything is mohair. Mohair and mohair, mohair and wool. Everything is mohair. Everything had mohair in it. And I talked to Nina about that, and she said, yeah, it's super popular. And she had, as you can see, as you saw in the pictures, I'll put it up again, a beautiful mohair sweater that she called polka dots, which I looked up the pattern already, and it's only in Norwegian, because I would love to make that pattern. It was so beautiful. In fact, when I put it on Instagram, somebody said, I love her sweater. So, but she talked about how they're nice for summer. Now, I'm sitting out here in the shade, and I thought I would be way too hot, and I'm not. It's perfect because it is airy, it is warm. I was warm inside, but I'm not in the shade here. So mohair everything, either mohair held with wool or mohair and mohair, just mohair held together. That was really popular. Big oversized sweaters that were tucked in just in the front, sweaters on these girls, and I'll put a couple pictures up now of women that didn't know I was taking their picture. But everyone had gorgeous sweaters. I mean, I just thought, oh, I had to look, and I would just like snap a picture if I was standing at the bus or I was walking behind people, I took pictures. I also saw some colorwork sweaters, not so much in Oslo, but up north. When we were in Renne, we took a ferry over to this island and then hiked to a beach. And while I was waiting, there was a lady who had opened up her house for treats while you were waiting for the ferry, and she had homemade baked cakes, and you could buy a cup of tea, and I did. But she had a beautiful sweater on. She had the traditional fisherman's pattern, which I'll put up now, and then I wish I would have taken a picture of her sweater, but I didn't. And then she said I kind of combined 2, they call them recipes. She combined 2 patterns, and she had made up the collar and the sleeves in the northern Tromsø pattern, which is up north. And I'll try to find those and put those up too. I have done so much talking. I'm sure you guys are sick of my Norway story. But anyway, I learned so much because I was knitting and a knitter, it made it a lot more special to me. I probably did less hiking than I would have, but I knit a lot and it was great. So that's kind of what they're wearing, is big sweaters, a lot of mohair. Put up some more pictures of some mohair sweaters that I found, and they're all Norwegian knitters that are putting these up. So, or Danish, or any Scandinavia. So very interesting. So go buy your mohair. I was glad I got it on sale because it makes it, sometimes it can make it expensive adding a strand of mohair to your project. So if you find it on sale, buy a sweaters quantity. So we left Oslo for Iceland, and I had already made a pact that I needed no more yarn. I wasn't going to buy the Letlopi in the airport. But I went in and I thought, okay, and I'm doing my figuring about how much it is. I'm like, okay, it's $4.50 for a ball of Letlopi. And I feel bad because I can buy this here, so I shouldn't buy it anyplace else, but I couldn't help it because I got caught up in the colors. So here's my colorwork sweater. I bought enough of the body for this color, and these are the colorwork colors. I don't know if I need 4 colors, but I just thought this is beautiful, these colors. So, body and color. And that is my Iceland. These were some of the first boat knitters I saw. They didn't speak English, but they were making the beautiful socks. And then I met Ingrid. She was knitting mostly for her grandchildren. When I went out on the deck, there were these 3 ladies having a really good time with their husbands, laughing and knitting. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do one day. I'm going to cruise around with other knitters, and hopefully my husband will come as well. When we got to Rene, one of the YouTubers reached out to me on Instagram and said she was also there. She had hiked the beautiful hike the day before and was going to the same yarn shops that I had, and suggested some other ones. I wish we could have connected, Marie. Maybe one day, because I'm going back. Maybe your daughter will still be there working. Then when we got to the Marabou huts, there were these 2 young ladies, and they were so sweet. One is a Finnish diplomat, and one was a regulator, I think, in the hydroelectric industry of Norway, which is a huge industry, as Norway gets most of its energy, electricity anyway, from hydroelectricity. They were just delightful and having a great time. Then there were some more at the next hut, more knitters, Helena. And I also met Oda there, and she was collecting the goats and feeding the goats. And she also had a Petite Knits Sophie scarf on, so I noticed her right away. But all these girls were so sweet. Some of them were working there and some visiting. This was Mona on the bus to Lillehammer. She's young, look at her, and she was going back to Lillehammer for the weekend, visiting her family from going to school in Trondheim. But look at her vintage knitting bag that was her grandmother's bag. I noticed it right away and was so envious if I could find something like that. Just beautiful. Then there was Ricky and Maren, and they were in the Oslo coffee shop where number 2, the runner-up for the best cardamom bun in Oslo, was purchased. This bun was so good. But they were having a great time knitting and having a cup of coffee and a pastry. I think that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for this very long Norwegian knitting video. Thanks for coming on my vacation with me, for those of you that joined me on Instagram. And here's a few more pictures if you want to continue on and watch the rest of them. Thank you again. Until next time.
I bet our guide has hiked better than me.